Broadcasting from Hollywood, California, it's Grants Rants, Hollywood Talk.
Marge Madness takes over Grants Rants with Margaret Josephs and Marge Sr. from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. We're talking about the hair pull, Danielle Staub, Teresa, vagina tightening, and other nonsense. Later in the show, Granny June calls in to react. This special episode starts now. Let the ranting begin. It's Marge Madness on Grants Rants, our 150th show. I've got lots of questions, a lot coming from Grants Rants listeners, so get ready. I'm introducing now Margaret Josephs and Marge Sr., both featured on The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us, Grant.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having us.
So excited to be on your 150th episode in Marge Madness. You got double the Marge, right,
Yes.
Marge?
Yes, double the Marge.
I may have ripped that off from your recent appearance on Watch What Happens Live, Margaret, but you know, who cares?
Who cares? No, and I like it. I think we should just hashtag it Marge Madness.
Why not?
I like Andy had said it. It's all good.
So this time, well, actually 2 years ago, Margaret and I recorded, and we had a different co-host. That episode was you and Danielle, a moment in time, never to be recreated.
No, never to be recreated. So you really got a great episode there. Never to happen again.
Yes, truly set in amber.
I know. How funny. I know. We were sitting in the front seat of my car and we recorded. We were so excited, her and I, to be together, to record with you. And then, you know, it was all downhill from there, Grant.
Yeah, how fast things change, but I get it.
True.
Let's talk a little bit about it. We'll get into the stuff that people really want to hear from at the top. The hair pull. By now, it's out there that Teresa more than encouraged Danielle to grab the ponytail. And you called her an asshole. And, you know, you really... You looked genuinely hurt. Like, I'm learning in therapy. I'm in therapy right now, and I'm learning there's a difference between anger and drama. And you really were angry and hurt, and there were no dramatics. It was just the way you looked at her. It was a very real moment, at least for me as a viewer.
It absolutely was a very real moment. I had no idea. None of us had any idea, not even production. It was not a setup. It was a very authentic moment when Danielle revealed that the only people who knew about it at that moment were Danielle, Steve and Dan, and Teresa. So production hadn't even looked at the tapes at that point. So Melissa was in shock. It was very crazy. So when Melissa came back and told us, I mean, you saw all our mouths.
Right. I was gonna say, how did production not know? But they had not reviewed the tapes.
Because this was the whole thing. They were whispering. Production was filming us. The audio person knew they were saying something. She wasn't hyper focusing. Their intimate moment there, you saw they had, you know, what Teresa was saying. They obviously turned it louder so the viewers could see it. Mm-hmm. But they also subtitled it because they weren't sure what was happening at the time. So it was just, it happened so quickly. And when they went back after Danielle saw it, you know, they don't review the footage right when it happens. It's when they go to edit the episodes. Right. And they weren't even up to it. You know, we were still in filming season.
I used to do that type of work, the logging work. I used to work third shift for reality shows and go through the footage and have to hand write every single thing that was said, not only action, but dialogue. So I can see how that would be later down the line in post-production. So it must have been a shock to everyone at that finale party.
Yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't even reviewed in post yet. They weren't even up to that.
Wow.
So the whole point was, everybody was in absolute shock. So you saw, I genuinely had the reaction of like, no, don't even justify yourself. I know you'd never do that.
Now, Marge Sr., you were right there when Margaret learned this. What was her reaction?
Shock. I couldn't believe it. I said, Teresa, why the heck would she do it? I do have to. I mean, it was just terrible. And but she came over to me afterwards and apologized.
Mm-hmm.
She was genuinely,
I mean, really, it was very upsetting.
She was genuinely very, very sorry and remorseful. I have to say, I've never seen Teresa so sorry and so remorseful.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's big of you to say, because like most people would just run with that for as long as they can. So, there's more credit to your character. But
Thank you.
Now, Marge Sr., what type of advice did you give to Margaret, after all of this, especially with her reeling from the news and being on camera?
Well, as far as Teresa, it had to be so that she talks to her and find out why, she would even think about, egging Danielle on. I mean, Danielle is crazy. And Danielle actually, Teresa, I really like. But what happens is Danielle made sure she was drunk all the time whenever they were together. She kept giving her alcohol. And unfortunately, Teresa doesn't think very clearly when she's drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Teresa gets caught up in, and I'm not even making excuse for her. She gets caught up in the moment. She gets confused between reality and a show. Yeah. And the truth is, we are a reality show. We're not just a show.
Yeah.
And I think in her head, she was just thinking, Danielle's not going to, just pull her, she's just going to pull her hair and it's going to be funny. She's going to come behind me and give me a little tug. She didn't think the girl was going to drag me across the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that's what she thought. I mean, I'm hoping that's not what she thought,
So in the finale, we heard you and others comment how close your relationship was with Teresa. I personally, just as a viewer, from what I've given and seen very little, I just feel like you guys are kind of in separate camps. I don't really assimilate the two of you as being really close friends. How good friends are you?
You know what it is? Teresa and I, she will say it herself. I am very emotional about her situation. She knows whenever she talks to me, I cry the most. I cry when she's not around for her. I am very empathetic to her situation, and she knows that. And I had met her at a time when she was very down, and her mother had just passed away when I had come into her life. So I met her at a very vulnerable moment.
Mm-hmm.
And and we did that wreath ceremony, and that was all very authentic, and it was super emotional. So I've been with her through, met her at the hardest times in her life. So I feel like we do have a bond because of that. I mean, we always text each other. We always check in on each other. And I think she understands that I relate to her in a lot of harder times in her life. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're close. Listen, do we always see eye to eye? Absolutely not. Like I've said to her before, I'm not the friend that blows smoke up your ass. I'm not a yes girl. I'm not the girl who's out partying all night, but I am the person who is always going to give you good advice and never put you in a bad light.
Right. And also, I'm comparing it to someone like Dolores, who's been a friend of hers for 20, 30 years. So, I can see how there's, there are different levels of history with people. And I get that.
Yes, her and Dolores have a very big history, but Dolores and I are extremely close. We talk every morning. It definitely seems very separate teams. The Jennifer, Teresa, Dolores, the Margaret, Jackie, Melissa. I just feel, we always have sometimes different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Different personalities.
Yeah, I get that. And I gotta say, I don't dislike that there are two different, and I hate to use teams because it's so sickening to continue to pit people against each other. But I like that there are two different sides of the show, and it just mixes it up versus one narrative. Sometimes these shows just fall into just one group against one person. So I kind of like when you guys were at the Jersey Shore and who was parasailing, who was golfing. It was a good balance as a viewer, other than just one person being on the outs or everybody just with a bad attitude, which does happen.
Yes, yeah. We're we don't like to gang up, and the truth is, the rest of all of us have a good heart. I mean, we could fight and everything else, but I think the core 6 ladies are. We're good people. There's some annoyed the shit out of me. I think everybody has a good heart.
Yeah,
I
remember early in the season when you were promoting it, Margaret. They were asking you, who would you kick off the show, and you were very diplomatic, and you were like, "Look, this is a good group. We may not all get along, but the show is really solid with all of us." And I really respected that answer because usually everyone tries to go for the audio bite, the sound bite, just to throw somebody else off, So I admired that.
Oh, thank you, Grant.
It's true. I mean, this show is in really good shape, and we've talked about it before, and I'm very critical of all the Housewives, but this show is not in a great spot before you came on, and I have to say I'm entertained, and I'm actually kind of surprised to see it ending so quickly, and I can't say that for all the cities. Sometimes I'm dying for them to wrap up.
Yeah, no, listen, we have a 3-part reunion. So with our 3-part reunion, it's 19 episodes, but it was an intense season. I think that's why people loved it. I mean, at the end of the day, with that ponytail pull, it was ugly and violent, but it did make good TV.
It was the number one show.
It did make good TV. That weave was, like I say, unbelievable. So,
Yeah. Oh, was that the highest performing episode?
Yep.
Marge Senior knows.
Oh,
Yeah, everybody and their brother who worked on it. I was so happy to work on the number one rated show.
that's great. Unfortunately for you, Margaret, you had to take one for the team big time.
I took one for the team for sure.
My God. So now Marge Sr., my 90-year-old grandmother, Granny June, she wanted to ask a question. She enjoys the show. She wanted to know how your life changed after all the different cosmetic procedures. Did you have vaginal tightening? Was that one of them? We wanted to know.
Yes, it was vaginal tightening, and it went very well, and it works very well. Not that I use it that often, but you
did give it a test run.
Yes, I took a test run, and it was really good. And then the facelift, oh my God, I am so happy. I look in the mirror and I keep saying, I can't believe it's me.
That's great. These are
we got to find Marge Senior a good boyfriend, though. We're looking for a good, solid guy.
Yeah, I mean, do you really want to, are you really thinking about being tied down, or you just want to go out and have some fun? Like, I don't know, I struggle with this myself. Do I want to be committed, or do I want to have some fun?
I want to have some fun. I told my daughter I'm not getting married or anything like that. I just want to have some fun, meet somebody who I can have a conversation with, go out to dinner or plays, whatever. But, I don't know if I could be in a long-term relationship, to tell you the truth.
Long term at 73. I mean, Marge Senior, God willing, she'll still 150. But I mean, I don't know.
I know long term it's anything over a year.
No, it sounds like you're looking for a solid companion, and I think
that would be fun, actually.
Someone whose body parts still work, someone else who's been rejuvenated.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Tell Grandma.
All right, I will. Thanks for that. So on the show, Margaret talked about growing up and at times taking on a parent role. All those scenes that aired, has that kicked off a conversation between the two of you? I mean, I imagine you've had the conversation before the show, but what did you make of that storyline?
Well, that conversation is always ongoing. She always reminds me she's the mother and I'm the kid. But we do have a great relationship, even because I wasn't, what you would call the normal mother, that, I might be dating myself, but it's June Cleaver, I loved her always. And I always said, whatever she wants to do, she can succeed at.
Yeah. Listen, Marge Senior was super supportive. She was a great best friend. I mean, not the most maternal woman known to man, but very squishy, very supportive. But we've always had this conversation. I think it came out
constant.
It came out on the show because, listen, we are together a lot. Marge Senior did flew the nest a little bit, working in the city, living her best life. And then maybe I had a little PTSD. So of course, I think the producers had picked up on that a little bit. And it was a conversation. And a lot of people related to it. I had a lot of people reach out to me saying they had similar situations with one of their parents. And I always say that the show is really a study in sociology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Marge Senior and I agree. I mean, we could survive anything.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I asked.
Glad you asked. Grant, us therapeutic types.
Yeah.
Yes.
So on BravoTV.com, Real Housewives of New Jersey after show, there was a Danielle, I'm sure you saw this. She said that it felt good to pull the hair. That her only regret was not doing it sooner and having to be told. What is your reaction to this nonsense?
I think it's indicative of her character that she would double down on something so violent. And it really shows her mental state. She's not the healthiest person, obviously, to say something like that. And it's unfortunate that she would, when they asked me about the pouring of the water, I said, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have done it. I was looking to diffuse the situation. I actually thought she was going to hit me after all the chest bumps. I didn't know how to act in that situation. I'm not really one to always just get up and leave. That was probably my best bet. So I said, I regret throwing the water. And she's a person who would double down and promotes violence. But it's not shocking that she would say something like that. She's just, that's why none of us are friends with her any longer.
Right. Well, here are some questions, and I kind of read them as quick questions. You can expand on these however you like, or you can answer them quickly. I'm just curious to get a few of your takes on these things. Is Danielle still living in your neighborhood?
Yes, she is. Right, Mom?
Unfortunately.
I was going to say, that's unfortunate for you.
But we never see her at Starbucks.
It's so funny. You would think that I would bump into him because I go to Starbucks all the time.
But she's never there. She must not leave the house.
Is she still in that house with Marty?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
How creepy is that?
I mean, it's been a while. It's been a hot minute. That's strange.
Yes.
Was it true that no one wanted to sit next to Danielle at the reunion?
I mean, I don't think anybody wanted. Well, when you see where she sits at the reunion, you'll get the picture.
Yeah, well, I that's why I asked. So I'll leave it there. Was it true that Danielle's behavior was so out of control that you all had to exit through separate exits after the reunion?
Well, I'll put it this way: I exited through a separate exit.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, it's safe. That's a safe choice.
Yeah, safe choice. Safe choice.
I can only imagine, just to see it without any editing, just to be there living it. I just can only imagine.
You can't.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you really can. But I can't even. I lived the reunion. I personally cannot wait to watch it.
Mm-hmm. It almost happened this season, according to the interwebs. Would you invite Caroline into the group? Would you welcome her into the group if that was something that producers did?
Sure, I would love to.
Yeah, that was a listener question. Who are you close to when you're not filming? That's another question from a listener.
I talk to Melissa all the time. Like I told you, Dolores every morning, Jackie. Teresa and I, it is, I don't really keep in touch with Jennifer as much, but we did all have dinner together not that long ago for Dolores's birthday.
Oh, nice.
But I'm really, my core really is the Dolores, Melissa, and Jackie. I mean, but Teresa and I do things together, but Teresa's busy jetting all over working. But I do spend most of my time with the Dolores, Jackie, and Melissa.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to get your take on both of this. Both of your takes on this question. Do we like Jennifer? I like her because I find her to be foolish. And I just enjoy her for the show for all the right reasons. She's entertaining. I don't know if I would necessarily be close friends with her, but, we saw a lot of the back and forth this season. You seem like you're pretty much over it. Do we like Jennifer?
Yeah, I think she's great for the show. I think she's great. She's a great mix. Is she someone I would seek out to be close friends with? No, but I think do I think she's funny? Yes, I do think she's funny. Yeah. I'm not going to say when I was there's always the competition. Who's funnier? Who's this? We have totally different senses of humor, but she's entertaining. I got to give it to her.
I'm 100% on the same page. Yep. Marge Senior, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. She is funny, but she needs a stylist.
Marge Senior, how do you really feel, Marge Senior?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
people don't understand the way I look. They're like, "Oh, Marge, you need a stylist." I was like, "Girl, it's Poochie." It's people don't. People think everybody should look alike. Extensions down to their vagina, plastic surgery laden. They have no sense of individuality or personality. So,
yeah.
It is.
Did you really push Marty in the pool? Because there are some camera tricks there. I just need to know.
No, we pushed him in. Pushed
Okay.
him. I pushed him. He started to get his footing where he could almost get his balance. Joe saw that and then gave him the final shove.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot it was a team effort. I forgot that.
It was a team effort.
Yeah.
Couples. Yes.
And your husband's in the pool. I mean, just at an instant iconic line. You've made the ranks of the Housewives T-shirts, iconic mugs. I mean, that's really an accomplishment.
Thank you. And by the way, Grant, I'm going to tell you that was not planned. It came out of my mouth. I was so frustrated by that point, just leaving. When I was like, your husband's in the pool. I forgot I was even on mic. Truthfully, it was just, I didn't realize I said it. When Andy Cohen had called me, like when he's like, Marge, that episode where you said your husband's in the pool. I was like, yeah, what are you talking about? I literally had no idea.
Right. Yeah, no, because it was very passing, but very cool. I think that's what made it so iconic. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Very cool.
Thank God. Good. I'm happy.
Now, Marge Sr., a listener wants to know if you've had any hot dates recently.
Not hot dates. Hang out with my gays.
Marcy, all her dates with her fabulous gay men.
That's probably more fun, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It actually is. I have a lot of fun with my gay guys.
Now, Margaret, I saw you on Watch What Happens Live, and I was trying to figure out what was new, and you called out the teeth. And I have to say, you really do look great. I really do.
Thank you.
I was trying to figure out what it was, and I didn't want to ask, so I'm so glad it came up on Watch What Happens Live.
I know, how funny. Andy caught on, right? You know, it took him a few minutes. He's like, Marge, did you get your teeth done? And I had my temporary veneers. I'm going to call out my dentist, Dr. Appa, who's amazing. I'm actually getting my permanent veneers tomorrow.
Oh, you are?
No, not tomorrow, Wednesday. My mother goes, oh, you are? No, Wednesday.
I thought I was going with you.
Mom, this isn't a private conversation. Look at my mother. Oh, I thought I'm going with you. No, so I'm getting, he was great. I got my teeth. You know, I have a very big mouth. My teeth weren't wide enough. I never wore my retainer when I had my braces. My smile was getting narrower. And it was time to upgrade the smile. You know what I'm saying, Grant?
Oh, I wish I could. I think it's such a great thing. I know some people question it and they say, oh, it's so expensive, but I think it's such an investment. And now you never have to worry about anything ever again. You always look good. And
also I had a crossbite. I did have a weird bite. People are like, you have an underbite. No, I don't have an underbite. I had a crossbite. And he did correct that.
Well, that's good.
Yes, thank you.
It said on the show that you settled the Vineyard Vines lawsuit. We saw the 20 years of the Macbeth collection. A jewelry line is out there. I mean, it seems like things have really turned for you because the last time we spoke, you were in the middle of that lawsuit. So
I wanted to blow my brains out, Grant. I'm not even kidding you. I really wanted to take the gas pipe. It was so crazy because that lawsuit blew up so big, and it blew up bigger when I got on the show.
Of course.
And people think that I make my own product. I'm in licensing. Licensing is when it's your label, your brand, you're contracted to different companies. They distribute the goods and sell to the stores. And I really got caught in a crossfire there, and I was held liable, and it was not pretty. Mm-hmm. And I was just happy to settle it. I'm not going to say I didn't settle it for tons of money, but
right.
You know, just I needed it over and done with.
Well, thank God it's behind you. There's nothing worse than a damn lawsuit.
No, nothing worse. I mean, I'm still paying my attorneys, but hey, that's life.
Yeah. You know, I just wish that we could see more of this stuff. I'm not talking about lawsuits. I'm talking about the jewelry line and your work. I wish we could see more of it on the show where it's less sitting down for lunch talking about a conversation you had the night before, and it's more of the lifestyle. And that's what I'm used to from the past. I'm actually genuinely interested in what it is that you and the other ladies are doing outside of the show. I wish that we would see more of it.
Oh, thank you. I wish, I hope so too. And I want to do that this year for sure. I always say that. I'm like, focus on the other stuff I do. I do more than eat contrary to popular belief.
Right. Well, it just seems to be the general tone across these different shows. They've kind of taken away a little bit of like the more day-to-day in the family life. But hey, as a loyal viewer, I'm saying, and I'm in the demo, I'm like, whatever it counts for, I'm like, I want to see a little bit more of like your life versus just conversations. So
I agree. I think you actually have a very valid point.
Yeah. So you're launching a new podcast. You mentioned at the top of the call. I already looked into it. What can people expect?
Yeah, it's called Caviar Dreams Tuna Fish Budget. I am doing my co-host with Lexi, who you see on the show with me. She's worked with me for 11 years. And basically it's about really no one who's from the Lucky Sperm Club, but people who have created their own dream, their own business, entrepreneurs, I said disruptors, leaders in their industry, people who wake up with a smile on their face every day and who really just, have followed their dream and how they have done it. Because so many people want to work for themselves, not unlike yourself, who've created industries just so they can work for themselves. And so many people are afraid to take a leap of faith and what it takes to do something like that. And I think that's the way the world is really going. You can work from home out of your pajamas. There's so many different things that you can do. And a lot of people write to me and say, Marge, how'd you start your own business? So I wanted to have guests on from all different areas of life. Like we have Brian Kelly coming on, who's the points guy. The girls were on the Toast Network. So of course I interviewed Claudia and Jackie.
Right.
But all different people. We'll have makeup artists, just everybody, because everybody has an interesting point of view. And I think that's really what's interesting. So many great people like yourself cover pop culture and different things. And so I think it was time to do something like that. And of course, with like a humorous way, I want to talk about the pitfalls and funny things and what people want to do when they grow up, but just,
right.
Having a different point of view.
And will Marge Sr. be making an appearance on the podcast in any form?
Of course, Marge Sr., big caviar dreamer right there.
Yeah, I hope. I was like, throw her a segment or something because I want to hear her.
Yes. Marge Sr. will be.
Marge Sr. is moving back in.
Yeah, Marge Sr. is coming back to work a few days a week here. I think last year really resonated. She felt guilty dumping little Marge Jr.
I did.
Marge Sr. could tell you how to shop at Zara and look like $1 million.
Oh, well, I've been trying to find a damn place to shop. I'm telling you, I've had it, especially as a guy trying to find a place. Everything keeps going out of business. So I need all the help I can get. I'm really trying because there's not much. There's not much left.
You could really wear Zara, by the way.
Yeah, Zara is great. By the way, I have this one friend of mine, David Yontoff.
Yeah, David.
I'm mentioning him. He buys expensive things, like his bags and stuff, but he buys from Zara all the time.
Every time. I mean, even Joe Gorga, he wears like a lot of things from Zara. He looks unbelievable. Yeah. I think, Grant, you could do like a lot of Zara.
Yeah, I do a little bit, yeah.
You're lean. You know what I mean? And men who are lean look great in it. It's very European.
Yeah, which is the only place I can find pants are there. But I need to get a little bit more because, now it's getting to the point where you got to go to these designer labels just to have basics. I don't want to be doing that for basics, No,
I agree. So, it's not necessary.
No. Well,
it's the high and the low.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys, for supporting independent creators. Margaret, you've done the show now twice. Thank you. That really means a lot to a lot of us. There's so many people out there creating and just trying to create their own brand and build their own audience. And by you supporting the show, really helps me and gives me it makes me feel good. So thank you very much.
Oh, no, of course. You've created something amazing, Grant. So congrats.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, I hope everyone will check out the podcast. The name of it one more time, please.
Grants Rants.
Oh, well, your podcast.
Oh, yours. I'm saying yours, Grants Rants. What did I say? Everybody knows yours. Mine is Caviar Dreams, Tuna Fish Budget. What the hell? What am I, psycho? I say Grants Rants. Everybody knows the name of your podcast. Mine is Caviar Dreams, Tuna Fish Budget. Available on Spotify or iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast. On the Toast Network.
Beautiful. All right. Marge Sr., thanks for coming on Grants Rants.
Oh, thank you so much
for having us, baby doll. Have a good evening.
You too. Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye. Stay with us because after this, we're going to hear from Granny June. She's going to give us her no-holds-barred opinion about this interview, her thoughts on Teresa and Joe, and then I'm going to tease what I'm going to be doing next with the podcast. Stick with us.
You're listening to Grants Rants. Subscribe and spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the show.
Episode 150 continues with Granny June. I thought this would be a good opportunity to hear from Granny. It's the 150th episode. People like hearing from her. She just heard the interview with both Margaret and Marge Sr., so I want to get her opinion. Welcome back to the podcast.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here for the 150th podcast. It's really a pleasure for me to do this. I don't know how many we've done together, but 150.
I have a tally, and
good.
I should really add it up. I know Fern Ronay is at the top of that list, and I think it's like you and her have been on the most. But we've had you on in different capacities. Sometimes it's just a call in like this. Sometimes it's a full episode. You know, you usually manage to set a lot of people straight in the just even if the smallest of appearances.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, I thought the podcast with Margaret and her mother was very good. Margaret makes you feel as though she's just a real regular person, you know?
Yeah.
She seems very sensible about life and stuff. And her mother and they're a good duo. They're kind of cute together, you know?
Yeah.
They seem to, even though they have their differences, you can tell that they really care about each other. And her mother, she's still young. She's in her 70s. And I give her credit for having all that makeover done. My goodness, that was a tremendously big operation.
And I asked the question for you. I asked her how she feels, post-procedure, if it was worth it. What did you think?
Well, she seems very happy about it. I don't know why she bothered with the vagina part, because I don't think that she's making too much use of that.
It doesn't sound like it, yeah.
Did she say that she enjoys going out with gay men?
Yeah.
Yeah,
she has a circle of gay men, gay friends.
Yeah.
But, only for you would I ask a woman in her 70s if she had vaginal tightening. Some podcasts, the world is on fire. The podcasts are trying to solve the world problems. Fires in Australia, global warming, Trump. And I asked Marge Sr. about her vagina. And that's Grants Rants.
I think she was glad that you asked. I think she was glad to talk about it. And
she certainly probably paid enough to get it done.
It's just too bad that she can't make more use of it after going through all that problem.
Well, she did admit to taking it for a test drive. What do you think of that?
I really don't know if that test drive included a human or some other object of erotica.
That's true.
Maybe that's how she gave it a test drive. I don't know. But anyway, I'm happy for her if she feels good about it. But like they were talking, I guess, a lot about that hair pulling scene. And like Margaret said, it wasn't really planned. But all I can say is she's damn lucky that she didn't have more of a neck problem than she did have, because that could have really put her neck out of position for a long time.
I was really, that was probably the highlight for me through the interview, was hearing about how production didn't know. Nobody knew until they went back and reviewed the tapes, because thank God for once, we're talking about an authentic moment. Nowadays, the viewers are trained to look for fakery. We can tell when something's overproduced. But I was relieved to see, this was a real moment that even took producers by surprise. So, I got to give her some credit for that, the show some credit for that, and Danielle. I got to give Danielle some credit for that, because she pulled it off. She really pulled it off, and she got Teresa in trouble, and she got to get some of the heat off her. It was quite the moment.
Yeah, well, I was surprised to hear that Margaret claims that Danielle keeps Teresa feeling good. She's always passing her the liquor.
Right. That was another good moment.
I think when I see that scene now, I can see that Teresa was practically out of it, and I think she just said, yeah, go. I don't think she even knew what she was saying yes to. And I think she really felt bad about it, because, Margaret said, she did go over and apologize to Margaret's mother and Margaret for saying yes. I don't think she really realized what she was saying yes to. I think half the time she's bombed. And I'm just wondering now, is she going to give up that Danielle for good, like she said she is? I wonder if she will.
Well, I've been taking the temperature on this with different Facebook groups and discussions around Real Housewives of New Jersey. I mean, people are really done with Danielle. I'll always respect her position on the show. She was an original. She really set the bar for these shows. I'm not saying it's set very high. I'm not saying it's a high standard, but she definitely, God, she's like an icon in the reality TV world, good, bad, or indifferent. So for that, I respect her position in the TV world. But I'm okay if we don't see her anymore. But they've got to find, and I said this 2 years ago, they have to find a new adversary on this show. It can't be Kim D and Danielle Staub, and now Jennifer is kind of creating a stir, which is fresh and new. But all these like mustache twirling villains on the side, we need somebody new.
Yeah, I saw that Danielle on Cohen's, a program.
Watch What Happens Live. The card reader, yes.
Andy Cohen. She was on his show, that Danielle, and she seemed very normal and okay. And he asked her, about the Housewives, and she said, "No, I'm done." And she said, "I'm going into my own cooking." She's going to go into a cooking show of her own.
I mean, anyone can do that. In fact, that's something you should be doing. You're always trying to grow the brand. That's something that you should be doing, Kris Jenner, because I'm serious. That's anybody can do that. You don't need to have a contract with Bravo. So to me, I mean, to say that you're moving on just to do a cooking show in your own kitchen, I mean, it's not really exactly moving up the ladder.
Yeah. Well, I guess she has to say she's going to do something rather than just stay home and not do anything. And I noticed when they asked Margaret about Jennifer, she and her mother didn't say anything too wonderful about her.
They noticed
kept it kind of they just said that, well, she's good for the show, she's funny, and but they're not really friends outside of the show. Right. I don't think they care for her that much. But
my response was, I agree completely. We're on the same page, because I've been saying this with Jennifer forever. She's completely foolish, but I mean, she's necessary for the show. She's ridiculous, but that's why I enjoy watching her. I don't need to be friends with her, and I think that's where they stand too.
I think she did a wonderful job helping that brother come out. Yeah. And she did a good thing by helping him, and the mother, accepting him. So I give her a lot of credit for that. Mm-hmm. I think she goes a lot deeper than they give her credit for. She was brought up in a completely different culture. So it is difficult for her sometimes to understand what's going on. But she can be funny, and I notice, as I predicted, her husband is very much in the show this year.
Yeah, you did predict
He's
that.
right there.
Well, over the course of 150 episodes, I feel like we've talked a lot about Teresa and Joe. Between the two of them, they've been in and out of different facilities over the course of this podcast. So much so, I kind of stopped talking about them because it was will they, won't they, who's going to get deported, who's in and out. It was just going to be too much. Every week it was something new, it felt like, and it was really no progress made on that front. But now we saw finally on the show this season that they are going to go their separate ways. They came face to face in Italy. I thought they had a very authentic conversation where they sat on the couch in the hotel and just there's like 4 feet of space between them, and I thought it was a really real moment. What did you think?
Yeah, it was quite sad to me. And of course, I feel bad in a way for Teresa because when she's talked with him on the phone, he has said some terrible things to her, very insulting things. And when she tries to, straighten herself out with him, her daughters get very provoked, especially the oldest one. She gets so irritated with her. She doesn't realize really that all of this that happened, it wasn't Teresa's fault, really. She made one mistake, and a bad one. She trusted her husband and signed things that she didn't understand what they were. And she's paid for it ever since. But it seems as though the daughters now they've kind of turned upside down, and they feel more badly for the father than they do for her.
Yeah.
Which I can understand in a way, because he suffered a lot in the prison and in jail and all that. But it's because of what he did. She paid the price because she had to pay all the bills. She had to keep working, and she had the responsibility of her daughters. And now she's got taking care of her father. I mean, she really got the shaft. She really did. Yeah. And he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He's lucky he's got a family in Italy that he can live with. And you watch and see, every holiday, those daughters are going to be over there with him. Because they feel worse for him than they do for her.
Yeah. I mean, he's very lucky that he has a whole family that housed him and fed him. And I mean, it's
exactly.
Nobody has a spare family in a different country. So he is lucky in a way.
I know. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So don't talk to me about daughters and their father, please.
That's some shade. That's some personal shade.
Yeah, I know a lot about daughters and their fathers, believe me. But yeah, they're gonna go with him. They're gonna be with him. And it really wasn't any of her fault. She made the mistake of trusting him. I feel bad for the both of them, but more for her than anything else.
Yeah.
And more for the daughters, really.
I don't know if I feel bad for either of the adults in the situation. I feel bad for the kids because, now they have to be adults, and I'm sure that they feel as though they have to be the opposite of their parents because the parents made so many stupid decisions and mistakes. So I feel like there's a lot of extra pressure. Like, who the hell do you have as a role model with those two? That's my opinion on them. So we shall see. Yeah. We've got the 3-part reunion coming up, and I'll be watching, of course. For those of you who have listened to Grants Rants over the years, my thanks to you. For those who have come and gone and come back, for those who have told a friend, for those who have tweeted me, for anyone who just says they look forward to the show, whether it's before bed or taking a walk or in the morning. God bless you. Thank you for listening to the show. It will continue. I want to make a few changes coming up, and one of those changes is going to be a recap that I want to do. I actually did this for Real Housewives of New Jersey 2 years ago, but I want to recap with different guest co-hosts for the Real Housewives of New York and continue with the show as is. One of those people that I hope to feature recapping Real Housewives of New York with me in a fun way, it's going to be a new type of recap, not the usual. I'm hoping that I can feature Granny, because Granny's going to be a new viewer to RHONJ. Are you excited to watch it?
Oh, yes. Yep. I'm going to catch up, I hope, and get to know the different people. That's one of them that I haven't looked at, is New York.
I'm curious to get your take on Ramona Singer and Luann de Lesseps. Not today. Yeah. You're not ready yet. But
No, I'm not. Yeah. No. Well, it was great to be on this 150th podcast. My goodness, it's come a long way. And how long have you been doing these podcasts to reach 150?
This show, Grants Rants, will be 5 in August, 5 years, which is old for a podcast. So wow. I have to, continue to evolve the show, and I have. The thing with podcasts is when you evolve them, it has to go kind of slow because the audience, they know what they're getting. And I'm very careful in my approach with the show.
Yeah, well, you must have done very well to reach 150, and you've had some very interesting guests on.
In some ways, it feels like 150, and in others, it feels like 300.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll be around a little longer to be on some more podcasts and watch some more Housewives.
Yeah.
And it's been my honor to be always here when you want me to be on your podcast. It's been a wonderful experience, and I guess I have a few little people of my own that wait to hear from me, and I'm grateful for that.
And that's a good thing. Cheers to you, Granny. Cheers to all the listeners of Grants Rants, and cheers to 150.
Yeah, that's it.
I love you all for listening. We'll be back with more rants. Thank you very much.
This has been Grants Rants. Support the rant on Patreon at patreon.com/Grants Rants. Follow Grant on Twitter and Instagram at It's Grants Rants. Cover art created by RHONJ. Voiceover by Original theme music by Alexander Arntzen. The Grant Michael Collection.